Happy Friday, FinTech friends. The most important day of the week again. We've got a real gem to uncover and unravel here today. Two huge areas to cover in just 30 minutes. Communication, GenAI, and regulation. I mean, and our guest here today, this early afternoon in this continent, but we have a early morning, early bird from North America, right? Scott, where are you located? Always good to hear.
Oh, thank you, Ola. I'm from just outside of Chicago, so I'm very excited to get to connect with the Fintech Strategy Talks group today.
Perfect. And do you ever get tired of talking about GenAI?
Not really. Especially, my family might tell me to stop sometimes. But it's an exciting topic, and it's impacting the way all of us communicate with businesses in general, and especially in the fintech sector.
Yeah, I think overall the discussion is getting better all the time. I mean, there was a period, perhaps a year back, where it felt like everybody was essentially saying the same things over again, but definitely getting more nuanced, and a lot of the use cases, so many kind of focus areas to apply it in, and really getting. Well, we're seeing the potential now, and I'm sure even if some of us might grow tired of it, it's such an important area to master and make sure you have it on board your business and strategy going forward. But overall, I mean, maybe a short introduction, Scott. I mean, who are you, and what's your kind of professional background coming into this heavy topic that we are diving into today?
Sure. My name is Scott Draeger. I'm the Senior Vice President of Product and Vertical Marketing over here at Smart Communications. And I've been in the customer communication side of the business for quite a long time, for over 25 years. And one of the things that I think is important is we get to watch a technological transformation right now, because the way businesses are approaching generative AI, especially in the context of communicating with customers, is pretty amazing to watch. We see a lot of our forward-thinking users changing how they engage with customers, how they initiate conversations, how they respond to conversations, and how they support employees, partners, throughout a growing mix of stakeholders. It's a very exciting time right now, Ola.
Yeah, absolutely. And what sort of what would be the typical, let's say, customers you work with within the financial sector? I mean, is it more of the traditional, perhaps, or mid-sized, or is there a typical customer that you are quite familiar with?
Yeah. We have a pretty decent range of customers. We have some smaller boutiques, we have some upstart fintechs, all the way through some of the largest banks in Europe that use us for collaborating on contracts and derivatives contracts. We have wealth management specialists that are onboarding clients and also transferring wealth from one generation to another, which is an important moment for a fintech to understand, because different generations communicate differently. They have different expectations, and it's important to manage that shift. And Gen AI and great technology can help with that.
Exactly. And just to also remind everybody that the Fintech Strategy Talk series has kind of been is an initiative we do for the 10-year Nordic FinTech ecosystem collaboration that we now celebrate during the Nordic FinTech Summit in just under 2 weeks here in Helsinki, and obviously looking forward to seeing as many of you there as possible. some of your colleagues as well, Scott. So really good to have your team on the ground here as well. But Scott, yeah, I mean, you had a few slides, so maybe we could take a look at your the content you've prepared for us, and then have a brief discussion after the material. And again, just a reminder, I mean, anybody who just post your comments in the or questions in the comment sections, and I'll pick them up as we progress here. And yeah, really looking forward to some engagement as well from you listeners. But perhaps we'll start with you, and that will then again, Scott, with you, and with that, I think the questions will also be clearer.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ola. We want to talk about Gen AI in customer communications and how AI and customer communications are going to impact things. So when we scale a conversation, we have smart comm, smart IQ, smart DX. But one of the things we wanted to do is we have a recent investment to finish our portfolio with the acquisition of 𝗪𝗪𝗽 last week. So we're very excited to bring archive communication in. And this is an opportunity to expand what we call the conversation cloud. So the conversation cloud starts with collecting information. So if you have a fintech that's looking to work on an onboarding process, and ultimately for compliance reasons, you still need to have some filled out forms, we help transform that experience from a static form filling experience into a dynamic, engaging, interactive experience that gives the people context while they're filling out the forms, helps answer questions, guides them through, doesn't ask them the same data question twice, and helps you give all of your compliance in as great of an experience as you can while delivering compliance. And then we go through to create customer communications with smart comm and custom derivatives contracts, and collaborating on contracts with smart DX. Then we got some great stuff coming up in the coordination space, and in the content side, we're very proud to have brought on 𝗪𝗪𝗽 into our portfolio just last week. So we're excited for that team that's based over in Helsinki. We're excited to bring that capability to the portfolio, because it is critical. Like if you look at the bottom, this thing about customer data and conversation history. Conversation history is something that we've been doing in our product for years. We store the metadata around the conversation, including whether AI is used in a communication or not. So if you're thinking about building communications that are ready for future regulations, this is an important element. We want to not only archive the documents with our new friends at the 𝗪𝗪𝗽 part of the business, we also want to capture the metadata and surface that so that AI is reportable within the organization. You asked what kind of client base we have specifically for financial services. We have global leaders, we have regional, we have non-banks, we have some neobanks, we have them all over the world, including 9 of the top global investment banks. One of them just won an award for the best customer experience. And we have banking all over Europe and in the Nordics as well. One thing I wanted to touch on when we're specifically covering Gen AI is everybody's seen the EU AI framework. And we're going to talk about the high risk and the limited risk here. The high risk, it's not responsible for communication, but high risk AI applications almost always high risk AI areas almost always result in critical communications that need to be sent out to memorialize it. And then limited risk often just has communications within it. So we want to talk about kind of this area between high risk and limited risk for just a minute. So a high risk process, if you're looking at the application for an account to the approval process, you might use AI to run through and make some of those decisions, gather some of those data. If you're making a denial, you probably want to log that AI was used in the decision so you can pass an audit or do your proof points later. And this is something that fintechs can think of in terms of dispute communications, notices on usage of AI, declarations, whether somebody's approved or denied, or any sort of disclaimers. And then over in limited risk, these are things that are internal AI usages. So you might have somebody who's facing a customer and they use AI to improve a paragraph. You might need to log that, or you might need to have a disclaimer that says AI was used on this communication. And I know we're going to have a great time, and I hope you see us at the booth in Helsinki. I hope you stop by, visit Ronald. But we have a place to continue the conversation. If you want to, if you want to look up and prepare to meet us before the show, I know Ronald and the team are looking forward to you. But that's the slides I had to share today, Ola.
Great, thanks. And I mean, there's so many kind of areas to cover here, starting from the customer perspective, but then also looking at it from the financial institution or the financial services provider perspective. But what would you say is how, I mean, fintechs effectively kind of communicate kind of over multiple generations? I mean, that's certainly, I mean, there are very many different customers, and how you communicate to each in a targeted way. I mean, I'm sure that's super essential for the customer experience. What could you say about that?
One of the mistakes that some banks make and a lot of fintechs make, but they make it in a little bit different way. Some banks assume that their client base, especially in the wealth management area, they maybe assume that their clients are a little bit channel agnostic, and they're not interested in change. And then the fintechs, like an upstart fintech, may make a decision that people only want to do business on this brand new channel and nothing else. So they focus on a specific channel, and in that focus, they ignore the other generations that could possibly increase their customer base. And especially when wealth transfers from one generation to another. So as wealth transfers, the people on the older generations, they may have different preferences. Like they may like an in-person experience. They may like more of a visual avatar experience. But maybe somebody on the younger end, they feel comfortable if they have access to all kinds of self-service technology, like looking at charts and evaluating trades differently. So this one, this group this cohort wants more data and more context, but not a lot of interaction. And then this group might want all interaction and very low context. But if you want to keep your customers, you need to support all of them through the entire customer life cycle.
And just perhaps on a more general level, I mean, would you say that you mentioned an award-winning customer service, and would you say that it is possible to run an award-winning customer service without the use of technology?
Definitely not. And one of the things that our customers, especially our new customers, look to smart communications for is they have an increasing amount of technical debt that just is unsustainable. So they're oftentimes feel like they're prevented from moving forward and making big changes. And internally, you might hear this in your organization. If you hear people saying, "Oh, well, that's not the way we do it today," you might want to ask why. And then it might be, "Oh, well, we can't change this piece of technology because it's old, or there's not a lot of skills around it, or it was poorly documented. So we just kind of, pray that it works every day and don't touch it, Uh, but that's a sign. If you hear that within your business, if you hear, "Oh, we have to do this, that's the system. Oh, we must do it this way," that's a sign that you're adapting to technical debt. And that's a good signal for you to look at the customer experience impacts of that technical debt.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we are a little bit spoiled up here in the north and Nordics. I mean, we are such a digitalized and advanced digital region, and a lot of the but then looking at kind of beyond the Nordics, I'm not saying that the Nordics is in any way perfect, but looking at developments, let's say in France around their invoicing mandate, and just companies like PostNord shutting down their print print channel, if you like, and so how do you see that general kind of trend and movement, like digitalization transformation? How is that kind of affecting, and how are you seeing it, and what would you want to say about that?
Well, clearly, the Nordics is the leader in digitalization, just rapidly running to that, early in the millennium, running towards digitalization. Um, but one of the things that we see is there's a lot of shift that is not necessarily the company's choice anymore. So if you're, in the Nordics, you have a very digitally fluent audience and customer base out there, but there still are places that do the print channels, or even sometimes PDF archives it uses legacy print production. So even if they are digital and you go to the portal to get some of your documents, a lot of times it still uses older technology that's heavily laden in technical debt. You might not know it as a user because you go to the portal and you see old statements as PDFs you can download, but they're not responsive. They're not having the context. They don't have like interactive tooltips. They don't respond to screen size changes. So we're looking at the API side as well, because with the French e-invoicing mandate, there's new ways that you're required to communicate, and it affects small, medium, large businesses. With PostNord closing, that one's an exciting development. But legacy technologies still often sit right next to the core system that are preventing you from having engaging conversations with your customers and prospects.
But I suppose, I mean, I was just talking to somebody high up at Volt, the food delivery company, or the delivery company part of DoorDash nowadays, and really kind of commenting on this issue that we have in Europe overall, that it's really, really difficult to scale and grow because all of the European countries are essentially different. So is this kind of an let's say a problem that I mean you are fixing in, like, specifically? I mean, have you recognized this, and is this something your customers are kind of asking from you and needing your support with?
Absolutely. One of the largest, we're active around the globe. And one of the things that's an important trend in the financial services sector, especially in wealth management right now, is mergers and acquisitions. So for the last few years, just mergers and acquisitions have been crazy. Um, what our customers find is we spent a lot of time in the product helping make branding changes. So we spend a lot of time so that it's easy to manage mergers and acquisitions and bring them in. So, for example, if two banks merge, for the first 60 days or 100 days, it could say this bank now owned by another bank. You can kind of slowly move that, change the branding. Maybe you're adding stripes that weren't there before, maybe a slight color change. These idioms, the design, they can all change while you start to migrate to the new content. So it's very easy to have brand shifts and do expansions for mergers and acquisitions, or changes in language or localities that you're served. Especially, you have different sets of local preferences and regulations around Europe and the Nordics, even, where if you have one set of rules that might want a different approach to accessibility, you may make that available everywhere. You may choose not to. But we give our customers a lot of leeway to manage how they implement the technology, and they can express idioms, multiple brands, multiple types of customer relationships, and even tune messages by generation or other demographics.
Yeah, no, it's that's precisely, and going back to perhaps a naive question, but still, I mean, is it possible to run a modern and digitally scalable business without technology like yours? I mean, it does seem like impossibility and how you're fixing that really resonates with probably, as you've mentioned, I mean, the traditional companies who are also looking to let's say become more efficient with their processes, but and then on the other side of the coin, the growing companies looking to scale fast. So the speed of things on the one hand and the cost of things on the other side, and yeah, scale without sort of growing the costs in a linear, let's say, linear fashion. But hey, moving a little bit forward here, and what would you like to? I mean, how do you see that leaders today are approaching accessibility? I mean, how does that look from your perspective?
Yeah, this one's an important question, and it's treated differently around the world. And accessibility initiatives are being adopted at different rates. I'm on the way today. I go to Australia for our Innovate conference, and we're talking to a group over there that has really led in terms of accessibility. So there's some new accessibility laws going into effect July 1st over there. There were some that went into effect last year over in the UK. But we want to make sure that all the communications and all the interactions of fintech or a bank, or maybe an older bank that's aspiring to engage with customers better, that they can understand to serve customers better with. Maybe that's larger text. Maybe that's you hit a button, there's an audio description or a video pops up. Because with fintechs, it's not always the technology. Sometimes the concept is difficult as well. So we're dealing with some people that might be new. For example, in the Dutch market, they're changing the pension rules. So it's not just about setting up communication for pension statements. It's about educating the public on the rule changes for pensions. And some of these people, especially if you're receiving pensions, you may have some visual impairments. You may have age-related visual impairments. You may have, starting to see some cognitive disabilities that mean that people need assistive technology. So smart communications is always invested in both our interfaces and our output, so that the people using the technology can express their ideas and express their business requirements through the technology, regardless of ability. And also on the recipient end, we want to make sure that people understand communications with context. And that's critical towards the future. Even if it's not a legal requirement, it's better customer experience, because about 1 in 5 people has some sort of impairment that we can help with some of the technology.
Exactly. But looking ahead a little bit, I mean, obviously also mindful of our time here, but I mean, would be good to look ahead and imagine it's 2030, so 5 years ahead. We're also at Fintech Farm here in Helsinki. We're also in a way, as we have been celebrating or are celebrating our anniversary, 10-year anniversary. We're also doing that by trying to build a strategy arena for the coming decade, really, which most likely will look very different from the previous one. So that's where we sort of talk about a transition from FinTech 2.0 into FinTech 3.0 as well. But again, so what are the things that will have to change in by 2030 and really around financial communication from the customer perspective, for instance?
Oh, from the customer perspective, I think it's going to be great changes, because it's going to take a lot less time to accomplish bigger things. So you can accomplish bigger financial goals with a lot less time. We're already doing some great demos. Our CTO, Simon Tyndall, just gave a great demo at one of our conferences last week in the US, where he had a side-by-side experience of somebody filling out a form, the current way of doing things, and then a little bit of a future-focused one that was augmented by AI. So it was getting more data and helping fill out the form experience. At the end, you need to give some information to the regulators, and your fintech firm and your bank needs to capture data. You have to do that. But making it an easier, fluid experience. Sometimes it can be voice activated. Sometimes it can get synthetic data, or sometimes it can ask information or get data from more sources to make the experience easier. That's one thing that could be important for the next 5 years. Another one, which is a very important reason behind why we picked up 𝗘𝘅𝗽𝗲𝗰𝘁, and we're very excited to bring our new Finnish friends into the business, is we think archiving is going to shift dramatically. So usually archiving is all about the storage events and less about the retrieval events. Usually there's, thousands or even tens of thousands of storage events in archive per at each retrieval. But in the AI era, that could shift, where AI assistants are starting to access the archive quite frequently, and this information becomes context to help write new communications that are tuned, tailored, and delivered specifically for the customer very quickly. So we think the archive market fundamentally changed content in the next 5 years.
And thank you, by the way, Anna-Kate, from the greetings in the comments, and yeah, looking and asking, or looking at the other side of the coin with that. So from a financial institution perspective, I mean, 2030, what will that look like and demand?
Well, auditability and accountability are going to be very important. We look at the EU AI framework. One of the things that we did very early, in a very stark contrast to some of the other approaches out there, is we understood that AI is probably going to have regulations very much like GDPR and consumer duty and some of the other ones that are showing up over in Europe, where people might want to request an audit. They say, hey, of all the communications you sent me, I want to know what was AI generated and what was not AI generated. It may affect their value. Maybe a client puts more value on that. They're willing to pay more for your services, but some may have less. But we believe that all fintechs and banks should be preparing for AI audits, and we support that at the template level, so we can look at all of your content that you create for your customers and ask, hey, what was used in AI, and get that report right away, so you can do an AI audit on your content. But also, every time you create a communication, we can track that metadata to say Ola's letter contained AI in this fragment. Anna-Kate's received this one. Ronald's received no AI today. So you can go through and audit your communications to pre-comply. And if we're talking about 2030, I'm assuming there's going to be more regulations than in 2025. So we want to help people prepare for that.
Yeah, the complexity, I mean, truly is unstoppable. I mean, as a trend, I mean, how everything's getting increasingly complicated and complex around the industry. But hey, I mean, we are close to the end, and just wanted to give you an opportunity. I mean, what would be your closing thought for the discussion? Anything you'd like to?
Well, first of all, thanks, Ola, and thanks to everybody at the FinTech Farm and people checking out the conversation today. But the thing I would do to prepare is understand that the change from now to 2030 is going to feel much different than the change from 2020 to now. And this is a moment where if you plan by looking in the rearview mirror, you can make some big mistakes that will cost you 3 or 4 times. So please consider how you scale your customer conversations going forward.
Precisely, and I mean, on my part, I would say that I have this kind of this hypothesis that the future banks will all be like private banks, so we'll all be part of a private bank level service, and so really tailored to our own and targeted at our own needs. And I mean, this kind of brings that vision or hypothesis alive. I mean, we can all get so much more out of our financial services in the future. That this is the really on top of which to build that level of future banking and financial services. Hey, thank you so much, Scott. Yeah, you've got a long day ahead if you're traveling to Australia later today. So perhaps good that you're up early and you get to have a few hours of shut eye on the plane over. And again, so much looking forward to everybody meeting everybody face to face, also in Helsinki on the 15th of May. Getting already a little bit oriented the day before on the 14th with our reception and roundtables. Yeah, thanks a lot, Scott. And have a good trip over to Australia. And
Thanks,
looking forward
everybody.
to seeing you again soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye-bye.